Hi folks, thanks for joining us today. My name is Michael Halpern. This is a first for us here at MuniReg. The first of what will hopefully be a series of short video blogs where we will be discussing issues pertaining to vacant and abandoned properties, zombie foreclosures, community blight in general, everything from emerging issues and that perhaps you should avoid in your community, some creative and innovative solutions that perhaps you could look to replicate in community, and everything in between. Feedback is always welcome, so we'll see where the topics take us in the future. That being said, if you can bear with me for just a moment, I would like to take a couple minutes just to introduce myself for the folks that don't know who I am. My name is Michael Halpern. I am the president of MuniReg out of the Cleveland, Ohio area. For about 20 years, I've been involved with vacant and abandoned properties and zombie foreclosures, etc. For 18 years, I was at Safeguard Properties. For those that don't know who Safeguard is the nation's largest property preservation or mortgage field services company. What that means is they inspect and maintain properties on behalf of banks and mortgage companies across the nation and across the entire foreclosure process. For the last 8 or so years, when I was there, I was the director of community initiatives, which meant I worked directly with all levels of government, primarily local governments, really helping them navigate through the issues they were facing with zombie foreclosures. Education, sharing information, sharing resources, again, with all levels of local government. Primarily, it was with the building officials, the code officials, code enforcement officials, the boots on the ground that were really struggling. They were really challenged and struggling. Oftentimes they were underfunded and really needed all the help they could get. So fast forward to today, though the issue of vacant abandoned properties, zombie foreclosures may not have the same prominence that they had, let's say 10, 15 years ago, the problem absolutely still exists. As you all know, one property can have a devastating effect on the neighbors, the neighborhood, the block, the entire community. That's what we're here to address. We're here whatever we can do to help our local government partners address these issues. That's what we're here for. So that's a little bit of background on myself and the company and why we're doing what we're doing today. So let's talk a little bit about the issue at hand. We noticed a pretty glaring disconnect that exists, and we feel strongly that it should have been avoided and really easily could have been avoided. So let's kind of jump in there a little bit, and we'll talk about some of the underlying issues, underlying factors that I think led to this disconnect. So there's a bill under consideration in Ohio where it would require parties to register vacant and abandoned properties with the county offices. The goal is the same as the local registries, to provide a point of contact for local governments to address maintenance issues of the property. So when you look at the ordinance language, before we get to the actual disconnect, I think there were 4 red flags that that really popped up, and I think they underlie the reason behind this disconnect. So the first one was the equation, they were equating rental properties, so I should say equating vacant and abandoned properties with rental properties. From our perspective, 2 different animals, right? The vacant and abandoned property is exactly what we're talking about, abandoned. There is no active entity at this property. With a rental property, in theory, you have a active landlord at this property, whether it's individual, whether it's an entity, at least there's somebody in theory to talk to. It should not be treated the same way. That's number 1. Number 2, you've got the issue, maybe for a different conversation later on, the notification process that they have is, let's just call it the old school approach. It's proven not to work, but yet that's the language they're including in there. The third one is the penalty issue. For a future conversation, perhaps the issue of carrot versus a stick. There definitely needs to be a stick, and when you look at this, the penalty on this one, really not where it needs to be. And then the fourth one, and last but not least, was just the way they've set up the program. I'm the first one to promote and advocate for community engagement with all parties, especially the nonprofits, the community development corporations. I live in Cleveland. They have a very strong community development network, community development corporation network, I should say, that I've worked with for many, many years. First one to engage them, absolutely. But the way they're doing it is seems to be a little misguided and very inefficient. What the bill would have these entities do is identify the vacant properties and report it up to the county level on an annual basis. So, including there's no allocation for additional resources at the county level to enforce it. But let's just talk about the actual process. What happens if a property goes vacant, let's say February 1st, and the annual reporting day is January 1st. So now you've got a property that's going to sit vacant for 11 months. What have you accomplished? Properties come in and out of vacancy continuously. New vacancies are identified. Just really inefficient. There's definitely better ways of doing it. So, those are some of the underlying red flags that we saw. One of the underlying issues on a macro level, I think, that I took away from the bill language was, I think, just the general lack of understanding of what we're talking about over here. When you have real estate, when you have land and a home on it, and a property on it, generally speaking, right, again, with an owner involved, with an interested party, it's in that owner's or interested party best interest, financial best interest, to maintain the value of this property. So if it's not happening, there has to be a reason for it, right? So some could be valid, some could be invalid. We can talk about that at a later date. But the reality is something should be happening with this property. That can be addressed, and that needs to be addressed. But you can't equate a property that has severe neglect, been sitting vacant for 15 years, and treat it the same as a property that's just become vacant now. It's a solid property, no real damage to the property. They're two different animals. And when I'm reading the bill, I kind of got the feeling there's vacant properties and that's all there is, which I believe to be wrong. So let's jump to the disconnect and hopefully we'll tie it all together. So there's about 100 communities or so in Ohio, over 100 communities that have some type of local registry, okay? One of the communities that has it, and has had it for a while, is Dayton, Ohio. In fact, one of the folks there that still work there, I've known for many years, his name is John Carter. He was, bear with me one second, he was actually the Governing Magazine's 2008 Public Official of the Year for his work that was actually a precursor to the registry that they have today. So where's the disconnect? The sponsor of the bill in the Ohio legislature represents Dayton, okay? And so here he is, he's introducing and sponsoring a bill to require the registration of, vacant abandoned properties where Dayton itself already has one. What kind of really blew me away was a quote. I'm going to read to you from the Columbus Dispatch, where he gave a guest, I guess, op-ed or a guest article. Did have several valid points there, but he also states, "My community of Dayton was hit hard by the Great Recession and still has one of the highest housing vacancy rates among Ohio's larger urban areas. Unfortunately, local governments often have no way to contact the landowners of vacant properties to alleviate the issues caused by the property." Okay, so seeing that Dayton, his base, has a registry for that exact purpose, you can see why I was taken aback when I read the bill. So here you have this huge disconnect where you've got the state representative introducing a bill where it already exists on the local level in his home base. Why Dayton still has one of the highest housing vacancy rates among Ohio's largest urban areas, we absolutely need to discuss that, right? Perhaps there's a better way, to do what's being done right now, and obviously I have some opinions about that. But where's the communication, right? Where's that, the cooperation? Sorry, where's the cooperation between the state officials and the local level, the local officials? the state officials, we can't expect our state leaders and even our local leaders to be expert in absolutely every area, okay? That's why they need to engage with subject matter experts. State level folks need to speak directly to the local officials that are engaged in whatever the issue is. And today we're talking about vacant abandoned properties. And the local officials need to be advocating at the State House for where they're experts at. This easily could have been avoided and come up with if it is to be undertaken at the State House, it could have been done much more efficiently. Create a bill that would work for all parties, make it easily compliable, not just add additional steps, additional bureaucracy. So that's the disconnect that we saw today. And just speaking as a citizen, when you see this disconnect, obviously we're talking about a very niche area today, vacant abandoned properties. It probably exists in other areas as well, which is concerning. We want everybody should be working together. Everybody for the same goal. Everybody has the same goals. Everybody should be striving for the same goal. And the only way to do it is to have open communication, open dialogue, transparency, and all pulling for the same objective. So bring that to your attention. Let's keep our eye out for some of that in our states and future occurrences. So that being said, thank you for spending some time with us today. Feedback is absolutely appreciated and welcome. As mentioned, I can be reached at mhalpern, M-H-A-L-P as in Peter, E-R as in Robert, and as in Nancy, mhalpern at MuniReg.com, MUNIREG.com. If you're interested in learning a little bit more about MuniReg, please reach out to admin@MuniReg.com, or absolutely feel free to reach out to me directly at the email I just gave you. And thank you, folks, and have a great day.